Welcome. This is the side yard sessions because why film a video inside when I can film a video outside? I've been sitting inside all winter and it's finally spring. You can hear the birds, so we're chatting outdoors. This is a very windy hilltop, so we'll see how the microphone and also my bangs do. This is the first week of Grounded and Grateful. It's a little series that I'm doing because those were the two things that I felt like I needed. Maybe you also need that. I think that being grounded and being grateful are the foundation of any practice that's going to have longevity, whether that's a spiritual practice, a practice in business, a practice in parenthood, a practice in literally anything in life. We have to be grounded and we have to be grateful, or we're always going to be chasing, we're always going to be stressed. So, this little series is just to remind us how to find that center point again. So, grounded and grateful, this week we are starting with landing in the body. That's kind of the first point of reference as far as like, am I feeling grounded? Am I feeling grateful? It's how does my body feel? Can I land in the body a little bit more? The opposite, the antithesis of both groundedness and gratitude is the mind and all of the crazy tricks the mind plays on us. Anxiety, depression, to-do lists, comparison, all of that, right? So we're getting into the body this week. Now, when people talk about embodied practices, that's really what they're talking about. They're talking about landing in the body, being in the body, feeling comfortable and at home in your own body so that then you can listen to all of the signals that the body has to share with you. Embodied practices, somatic practices, are just about getting back into that state of being that's a little bit less rushed, a little bit less anxious, and more able to make decisions or have ideas that are slow and intentional. Next week, we're going to really dive into the different aspects of the body. We're going to go into the three different brains, the different centers of the body. But in order to do that, we first have to kind of grab onto that body awareness. So, buzzword of the century at the moment, nervous system regulation. Nervous system regulation is basically the ability to calm the sympathetic, but mostly the parasympathetic nervous system so that you can get into a space that isn't in fight or flight anymore, right? We've heard that a million times. Get out of the fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses. I think they just keep adding F's, but those are the ones that I'm aware of at the moment. And into a place that feels regulated. Nervous system regulation has kind of become this encapsulating catch-all phrase of perfect, I feel better in everything that I'm doing and I'm a better parent and all of this feels really good, which is great. That's true. Nervous system regulation is important, but I feel like it's not super clear always like what is the actual like piece there that we need to be looking at. Nervous system regulation, to me, when I talk about it, it is our spine. I like to boil it down to the spine because we have this spinal cord that interacts with all of these different sensors in our body, right? And from my lens, the spinal cord is also the center of our different chakras, right? So when I talk about nervous system regulation with my clients, I like to just like pare it down. We're talking about the spine today. And with that, I like to talk about starting at the pelvic floor. We'll talk about that in a second. And moving all the way up to the brain, right? It's all connected. And so when we talk about the nervous system today, we're talking about how can we get the body into a place where the whole spine and everything, all of the offshoots of that, which is the entire body, whew, take that big exhale, right? So pelvic floor relaxation is the place to start for nervous system regulation. When I was a therapist in a hospital setting, took a training all about how trauma and the pelvic floor are deeply related. And you cannot be having a trauma response and a relaxed pelvic floor at the same time. There was a bunch of research. I can't quote it, but it's there. Go look it up. And it's really like a pretty simple practice, but nobody's doing it. We're not doing it. So we're going to do it right now. So the pelvic floor is your pelvic bowl, basically, right? So it's that place that's at the very bottom of the spine, you can kind of think of, but it's more so, the center in between your genitals and your anus, basically, to put it bluntly. And it's something that if it's relaxed, all of the spinal fluid in your spine relaxes and it takes pressure off of your hindbrain, which is your fight or flight center in the brain. It relaxes that spinal fluid, kind of takes a big exhale, and everything else, shoulders drop, face relaxes, right? Everything else follows. But the pelvic floor is really the thing that goes when we're scared and then relaxes when we're feeling more at ease. So we're going to practice a little bit together. If you need help finding that spot, that sweet spot in your pelvic floor, think of your hip bones, those pointiest parts on your hips, and then your sits bones, the pointiest parts in the fleshy part of your booty. And imagine that that is a rectangle or a square. And then you want to find the middle point of those 4 points, right? So you kind of go into this middle point. It's sort of down in there, right? Does that make sense? Like if you were to take a slice of your body and then you're going to that middle point of the square, that's the area we're talking about. It's also the same place where you do a Kegel. It's the same place where you hold if you are trying not to urinate, all that stuff. You can play around with that on your own. And all you have to do is take some exhales while you're focusing on that area and imagine that it's just relaxing a little bit, opening up like a flower, whatever visual you want. And then you could also inhale and hold it, clench it, do a Kegel. And then when you exhale, relax back down. I found when I first started doing this practice, it probably took me like 3 or 4 weeks of fairly regularly practicing this before I felt actual full relaxation. And then when I found it, I was like, oh, that's what it is. So just practice for a little while. It takes getting to know your body. That's kind of like a sensitive spot in the body. There can be trauma related there. There's just, like sexual energy there. There's some people have like a dirtiness wound around that, right? Like we have stories around that spot in the body, I'm sure for no coincidence. So play around with it. The best part is you can do that whenever. You can be, sitting on the couch, you can be driving, anywhere you are, you can work on relaxing the pelvic floor. From there, once that area is relaxed, then I want you to visualize as you're exhaling that all of the fluid in your spinal column is relaxing down with it. And then at the very top of your head, where the spine meets the skull, imagine that it's just dropping, relaxing, releasing. And then if you want, you can inhale, hold that. It's the Mula Bandha lock in yoga. It's also, if you've ever done like a breath of fire or something like that in Kundalini yoga or anything like that, this is all what we're working with. It's the serpent, the Kundalini energy is that pelvic floor energy. So if you want to, you can also hold it and it kind of ignites this fire within us. And then when we want to relax, we relax it. It's a useful tool. It's not that when it's tight, it's bad. When it's relaxed, it's good. It's just that we are usually, most people I've found are in a constant state of clutching. And that's not always helpful. That's why we're in a constant state of fight or flight, nervous system dysregulation. All right. Okay, we're doing a bang reset. Hopefully the wind is not too bad. Gosh, it's so nice out here though. I mean, it's like I obviously have a jacket on and it's kind of cold, but in upstate New York, this is pretty nice. Okay, we're just gonna take a pause here and take a few deep breaths and notice the pelvic floor. Notice how it responds to your breath and how you can intentionally tune your awareness into that area of the body. And as you do that, notice if there's any other tension anywhere else in the body, maybe in your hips or your shoulders or your face, and try to relax as much of it as possible. That is ultimately the practice of landing in the body. It doesn't need to be this huge movement practice. It can be if you want it to be, But what I find to be the most helpful day to day is just a few breaths, tuning into the pelvic floor, adjusting maybe how my posture is, how my muscles feel, and using the breath to recenter, reclaim the moment. And then the next thing that's important in landing in the body is understanding how much the mind and the body are talking to each other. And I think, yes, we know this, right? But truly, nervous system regulation and why it has so much hype and buzz, which is valid and I think it should, is that it directly impacts our mind and how we feel going through the day every single day. I was watching some mom on Instagram talk about how she realized that everything she was always doing, she was rushing through. And she was a stay-at-home mom. She would wake up, she would get the kids breakfast, she would clean the dishes, da da da. And she was always rushing as if there was like somewhere else she needed to be. Even though every day was the same, she was doing the same thing every day. And she realized that the practice of motherhood, the practice of mindfulness, the practice of nervous system regulation is just to stop rushing sometimes. Yes, we need basic safety. We need our shelter and our food and our clothes and all of those things. But then beyond that, the next step is to stop feeling like everything is urgent. That urgency is nervous system dysregulation. That urgency is feeling unsettled in the body and therefore unsettled in the mind. And of course, I think that different practices like Buddhist practices and things like that have been telling us that for a long time. It's like doing the dishes is the practice. I'm not cleaning the cup to get the cup clean. I'm cleaning the cup to clean the cup. And once we can regulate ourselves enough to realize I'm actually not here to be a mother rushing through motherhood or to be a person working this job to rush through till the end of the day. That doesn't feel good. I want to be present in what I'm doing. And if I hate what I'm doing, either we just got to suck it up because it's the dishes and got to do the dishes, or we make a change. The wind agrees. And that's the practice of mindfulness, is the not rushing or noticing that you're rushing and asking if there's a way that you can make an adjustment. So the two practices that I want you to put together in this week of Grounded and Grateful to get you landed in the body is noticing the nervous system, particularly the pelvic floor and its impact. And then notice your tendency to rush through things, to finish them, to accomplish, to check a list off. For what? For what? What are we trying to check mark everything off for so that we can go to sleep? So we can die? When does the list end? I'm not sure. So check that in your own mind, your own heart, your own body. Is there a way to still do everything, but to not feel the urgency to get it over with? That's no way to live life. That's not mindfulness. That's next thing, next thing, next thing. That's living in the future. That's living in anxiety. And also probably get outside. The environment that you're in has a deep, deep impact on your mind and your body. And of course, we know, all the goodness of grounding and earthing, getting your bare feet on the earth. I would, but it's a little chilly. I'll get my bare feet on the earth later. But just being outside and in the pace of nature, which is fast and slow, but usually slow. Usually, when we sit in nature, we notice that the flowers are not rushing. The birds are not necessarily rushing sometimes. The wind isn't rushing, it's blowing exactly the right amount. The sun is not rushing to set or to get high in the sky or to run away from the moon. It's simply moving at the exact perfect pace. Technically, we're moving, I know. The earth is not rotating to get to the next rotation. And maybe we can live in a rhythm that is less rushing and more living, being present. Okay, I hope that that was helpful for week one. If you would like to join my Substack, and you're not already, if you're watching this somewhere else, I invite you to go over there and we'll be chatting in the subscriber chat. I'll be sharing more in my podcast and some written posts on Substack. You can find me there. You can also find me on Insight Timer. You can also find me on Instagram. I'm around, and I would really love to have you there. Substack is where I'm going to be sharing most of the goodies and the little extras, and that's where kind of most of this stuff will live. So you can find me. Um, Medicine Moons with Maya Rain is the name of my Substack. And I hope you have a really lovely day. I hope that this practice helps you in some way. I hope you enjoyed this little chat with me outside, and I'll see you next time. I did it. I did the thing while the baby slept. I didn't rush through it. Go me.